Welcome back for another video. Today, I'm going to be taking on the role of being the Steelers GM for the 2023 offseason. All right. And just to take a look at what the real GM has done previously. All right. Guys that the Steelers have lost in free agency. They lost 24 guys in free agency. Some of the notable names, some of them underperformers, but these notable names: and Carl Joseph, Terrell Edmonds, Damani KZ, three safeties gone. Cameron Sutton went and signed with the Lions. Another person in secondary gone. William Jackson, not there anymore. They were able to re-sign Larry Ogunjobi at defensive end, but they had linebackers Robert Spillane and Devin Bush, both not there anymore. Now, as a matter of fact, they did re-sign Damani KZ also, so they were able to retain one of their safeties and they were able to retain defensive end. But other than that, they had a lot of guys leave. This is a team that, with a young quarterback and a couple of young receivers, like they're trying to build something. I mean, they're rebuilding. You know what I mean? And Mike Tomlin, still, you got to give him credit. Like, still not having losing records while you're trying to rebuild this thing after Big Ben retires. So, coming into this new era, they're clearly looking at the rebuild. But what they've done in this free agency up to this point has been pretty good. They have to rebuild the offensive line in front of Kenny Pickett has been an issue for the Steelers for years. So what do? You go out and get Isaac Suamalu from the Eagles, who has been great for them. That's a great piece to bring in on a 3-year deal for $24 million. Only 6.95 of that is guaranteed, which is really surprising. But that's a great deal for the team. That's a great deal for him, assuming he's going to hit a lot of his incentives because he's been great so far at this point in his career. They also signed another guard, this one coming from the Jets. It's Nate Herbig on 2 years, $8 million deal, $4 million guaranteed. All right, so you look at other pieces that they brought in. Patrick Peterson on a 2-year deal. Now, he's had some down years in the past. Last year was a better year, a good rebound year for him with the Vikings, even though the Vikings defense as a whole was pretty damn bad. Patrick Peterson himself had a fairly good year, especially for his age. 2 years, $14 million, only 5.85 guaranteed. It's a good deal for him. It's a good deal for the team. They needed him after losing a bunch of secondary pieces this offseason. And after losing a couple linebackers, they bring in Cole Holcomb, which isn't a superstar, but he's a solid linebacker. He's coming from the Commanders. He's been good for them for a few years. He's a solid piece to have for a team that's been lacking at the linebacker position for years. I think Cole Holcomb is a good guy to have as a centerpiece for that unit and a good veteran in that room on a 3-year deal, $18 million overall, 4.92 guaranteed for him. So what they've done in free agency has been good. You would expect, as the free agency continues to go on, that they're going to go and collect more offensive linemen. You would think in the draft, when that comes up, they're going to get more offensive linemen. That's really the centerpiece of what they need to work on there with Pittsburgh, is getting that offensive line fixed. It was a problem at the end of Big Ben's career. It's been an issue already, in year one of Kenny Pickett's career. It's still not good. Najee Harris would be a lot better and would benefit more from a good offensive line. So as this offense continues to evolve, as a GM, you have to make sure the offense is going to be able to run. You do that starting in the trenches. So if we look at what they need, of course, I just said they need offensive line help. The other team needs cornerback, linebacker, defensive line, and if you want to go even further, wide receiver. They don't have Chase Claypool there anymore, and this is a franchise that is always good at drafting wide receivers. They always hit. Last year they drafted George Pickens. They have Deontay Johnson on the roster, so they're going to want more weapons going into the 2023 season, and if they decided, wherever they decide to draft it, they're probably going to be good. Right, because Antonio Brown was a 6th-round pick, and he ended up being Antonio Brown before Antonio Brown is who Antonio Brown is now. So going in, looking at the draft, they have the number 17 pick, and this is just for the first 3 rounds because who cares about the rest, right? They have the number 17 pick, number 32. There were only 31 first-round draft picks this year because the Dolphins are forfeiting their first-round pick this year. So the Steelers have the 17 pick, the 32, and the 49. And then in the 3rd round, they have the 80th pick. But the mock draft that I've done is a 2-round mock draft where at 17, they take tackle out of Georgia, Broderick Jones. Okay, offensive line help. This is what we're talking about. You went and got a couple of guys to fill in the interior offensive line for you in the 2023 season. Go and draft a guy that you can put around those veterans. And I think Broderick Jones coming out of Georgia, Georgia's had so much elite offensive talent over the last few years. And this is going to be another one of those guys that you can have in your offense for years to come. Him and Kenny Pickett can grow old in this offense together. You know what I mean? So expect them to take an offensive lineman. I think at 17, Broderick Jones will be available for them. So they're going to go there at number 32, the first pick in the second round of the 2023 draft. I have them taking defensive end BJ Ojulari coming out of LSU, getting some help on that defensive line. It's one of the things that they've really needed on the other side of TJ Watt. You have Cam Hayward on that defensive line. You put somebody else on the other side of that. And granted, they re-signed Larry Ogunjobi. He's a solid piece. But if you're looking for depth and you're looking toward the future of your franchise with where TJ Watt is in his career, where Larry Ogunjobi is in his career, and he's on a 3-year deal, you're looking towards the future. You're looking at a guy you can build around, looking at a guy you can get in the rotation right now, because that's what the teams that are winning Super Bowls are able to do, is have rotational pieces on their defensive fronts. So where they're at, where the Steelers are at, I contemplated having them trade back. I tried looking at different trades and trading back, but assuming they stay at number 32, I think they look for the future. They look for best of what's available at where they're picking. That's going to be BJ Ojulari there at number 32. And at number 49, right here in the center of the second round, I have them taking a center in John Michael Schmitz coming out of Minnesota. Again, another offensive lineman, one to build around. And in the center, when you're talking about center, that's a relationship that has to be built with the quarterback over time. And I think the perfect way to build it and have it build better for the future is having them both young and in the league for a long time. And I could be biased because, when I was growing up watching football, it was Peyton Manning and Jeff Saturday. They were together forever, and it worked out great. Their communication was top notch. They knew each other like the back of their hand. So that relationship starts this year, in my opinion, when they draft John Michael Schmitz in the second round. So if I'm the GM, that's how I do it. Now they only have $10.88 million in cap space as of 6:00 on March 27th. So it's not a whole lot of wiggle room, but there are definitely guys you could go get, guys that you could get for depth pieces on your offensive line, guys that you could come in, bring in as wide receivers for Kenny Pickett. There are plenty of running backs to bring in, even though they have Najee Harris and Benny Snell and Ty Warren. I understand they have those guys, but there's plenty of guys still left in free agency, especially on the defensive side. They definitely need some defensive help, which when you talk about the later rounds, pick number 80 and the rest that they have the rest of the draft, those are probably going to be defense heavy if I had to guess, and trying to fill spots on the defense and in special teams. So I expect the Steelers to be as active as they can. Again, not a whole lot of cap room, but they're in a rebuilding process. So they're going to be bringing guys in on short-term deals. The draft, I would expect, again, at like that number 32 pick, if I'm the GM, honestly, if I'm rebuilding for the future, they probably will find a way to trade away that number 32 pick and get some guys and get some more picks in this draft or get some picks in next year's draft to keep rebuilding and get it done that way. That is definitely an option. If I'm the GM, that's probably the answer. But this is the way I see it going. How do you think the Steelers should respond if you're their GM? What moves are you pulling right now? Are you cutting anybody to create more cap space, to bring in a guy like Odell Beckham Jr. maybe? So what are you thinking happens with the Steelers this offseason? You let me know. And don't forget to come back every day for more offseason content with the Horsemen. We'll talk to you later.